Happy Wednesday, everyone. You are watching Over the Under podcast, Texas A&M Football Edition. Week 1 is in the books. And this is going to be a weekly episode that I'm going to do. And I'm going to call it the Late Edition Breakdown. Basically breaking down the prior week's game, who opponent, however we play. But I'm gonna bring a different twist into it. I'm gonna involve some stats. We actually have stats to go off of. I'm gonna involve maybe some daily fantasy, stats, uh, season long stats, just anything that can break down this game. I'm gonna try to use it. I'm gonna try to make it about 10-15 minutes, not very long. Anyway, I was at the game went about as I could have expected. A young offensive line. I was happy with them. I broke them down in a prior podcast, and they came out a little flat-footed at times. The good thing is that Haynes King was only sacked twice. Some of that was because of his agility and his speed and everything combined. I mean, the guy's an athlete. He's going to get better. He had his rough moments. The offensive line had their moments, but for the most part, they kept Kent State and that defense contained for the most part. Haynes King ended up with, I believe, three. Let me see here. 3 interceptions. Yeah, 3 interceptions. If you saw and if you please go and follow Jay Pops. I was on his show about, I think it was 3 nights ago, and he puts on a great show. You got to go and check him out, man. He puts on a great show on YouTube. Look up Jay Pops. Anyway, I was on his show on Sunday night, and we were breaking things down, and I said, to me it didn't look like, maybe a couple of those were really on Haynes King. Haynes King had a really good night. His first night at quarterback. He's gonna settle down. He's gonna get used to the role he's been put in. And that offensive line, they were able to protect him for the most part. They only get Kent State was only able to sack him twice. There were a couple of hurries in there. In some spots where the offensive line, just got caught flat-footed and didn't contain them like they were supposed to. But I tell you what, one guy to watch on that offensive line is freshman Bryce Foster. That guy, he is a mountain. There's a reason they call him the mountain, and that's the reason, man. That guy can play. I mean, no one was pushing that man around. That is a man. The leader on the offense for Saturday night was Devon Achane. He ended up with 2 touchdowns, 124 yards. That he put on a game. I mean, for the most part, it was the Devon Achane, Anaya Smith, and Isaiah Spiller show. They ran Isaiah Spiller a lot. The Aggies did, and he ended up with 113 yards. 113 yards, 2 receptions. For 24 yards and 0 touchdowns for Spiller. But he had a really good night. He did. There was a little bit, I want to say it was in the second quarter where he came up limping a little bit, but he ended up coming back in the game. Now, if we're talking about season-long or daily fantasy stat-wise, points-wise, Devon Achane was the leader for the Aggies offense. He had 24, almost 24 and a half fantasy points. Anaya Smith was second with 23.6. And Haynes King came in third for points, fantasy points, with 15, just under 16 at 15.88. Not bad, really, for a first game for a quarterback coming in, first start. Not bad. But that also, like I said, that also says a lot about that offensive line. breaking down wide receivers, Caleb Chapman had 4 receptions for 91 yards. He had a pretty good night. He really did. He no touchdowns, but I mean, he was for the most part he was the main target. I mean, he was tied target wise with Jalen Weidemeyer. Jalen Weidemeyer had 4 receptions for 36 yards. Yeah, not bad. No touchdowns over the air, I believe, throughout the entire game. Let me see. Yeah, no. Uh, no touchdowns over the air. No. So yeah, good game. Everything went really well. For A&M. Now, when I say really well, the first half didn't really go as planned. It was kind of a slow start for the most part. I will say I wasn't necessarily just worried, but I didn't want the same week one that Texas A&M had last year against Vandy. No, that's what I was afraid of. But when A&M came out to in the second half to play Kent State, it was a big turnaround, and one of those big turnarounds was came came from the defense, and that was on a big turnover by Leon O'Neal, Mr. Wake 'em Up himself. That's right, Leon O'Neal, number 9, ended up with a interception taken in for a touchdown that just changed the entire momentum of the game. It really did. Um, I will say that if anything changed momentum, if there was anything that changed momentum for Texas A&M, it was the defense. That was it. There were a lot of big plays on defense that the Aggies defense had, and as expected, they came out the way we had planned. I mean, this is going to be a big time SEC style defense that that's the reason we're going to stay in a lot of these games, I believe. And then when it comes to Alabama, I believe we will. I believe, in my opinion, we will be able to hang it with Alabama with the new style, with the new players on offense that we have, and the defense that we have. I do. That's my opinion. Leon O'Neal, like I said, he had a interception for a touchdown. No sacks. Had an assist. 1 tackle for loss. Fantasy point wise, he had the most fantasy points, of course, on the defense with 16 and a half. I mean, that he was basically the player of the night the way he came out. Another big player, a true freshman, Shemar Turner from DeSoto, Texas. He ended up with, let me see, 3 assists, 1 solo tackle, uh, one and a half sacks. Yeah, 1.5 sacks for Shemar Turner. Fantasy wise, he had 7 points. He was tied for second most points on defense with Antonio Johnson. That's big. Those are 2 young guys. 2 young guys on the defense were able to generate that much. Antonio Johnson had 6 solo tackles. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. That just proving depth, the way this team is being developed, just everything. It's looking really good. We're going into week 2 against Colorado. Week 2 against Colorado. It's going to be a good game. I'm hearing a lot of chatter about, it's in Colorado. It's just it's going to be hard to play there with the altitude. I agree with Jimbo. It's not going to make that big of a difference because a lot of it has to do with getting these guys in shape, keeping them in shape, getting them game ready for this game, and in this type of altitude. I don't think it'll really play a problem And of course, you have several people saying, several of the doubters saying, "Oh no, it's going to be a huge deal. These guys aren't ready for it. And it possibly a trap game." I don't think so. Colorado, they're a good team, but they're not nearly what Texas A&M has built, and I don't think it really that big of a deal. But that being said, we are going to put week one away. Go ahead and put that one in the past. Here in, let's see, on Thursday, we are going to start breaking down Texas A&M, Colorado. Matt and I are going to come out with a show on Thursday and one on Friday. So be ready for that. Like I said, you've been watching Over the Under podcast, Texas A&M Football Edition. I appreciate you watching. Also, like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or if you want to talk with us, hey, comment. That's what we want to see. We want to see some interaction. So like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Comment. And yeah, go check out J Pops on YouTube. He puts on a great show. And like I said, follow us at Over the Under podcast. We're also going to start doing some stuff on our DFS side. So look out for that. That's going to be some great stuff there. We have NFL coming up, so watch Matt and myself break down the NFL slate, and we'll continue doing Aggie stuff as well. All right, guys, have a good one. I'll see you the next podcast.